In the United States, for the first time in history, more minorities than whites were born in the past year, proving that the next generation must learn in a more diverse community. We come from a very undiverse town, but it has become very noticeable that it is slowly changing. With different cultures moving into small towns, it means that schools that weren't used to it will have a new experience with interesting people. We start this documentary by talking to the principal of Meyer Middle School. We first asked him where and when he was born.
Absolutely. I was born right here in River Falls in 1972. You guys know where the library is, public library? There used to be a hospital there, and that's where I was born. So I was born and raised here in River Falls.
Second, we asked him about the diversity in his community when he was growing up.
At that time? Not at all. Very few minorities in our school. Very few minorities in our community.
We finally asked Mr. Chapin if he had ever worked in diverse groups of people, and if so, how those experiences have shaped his life.
Absolutely. I had a couple of experiences. The main one growing up, actually when I was going to college, I student taught at the tribal school in Hayward, Wisconsin, and it was the Coudray Tribal School. And so for the first time in my life, I walked onto the reservation, I walked to the tribal school, and although there was teachers that were Caucasian, it was predominantly Native Americans. And so for the first time in my life, walking on the reservation, teaching at that school, I was a minority. And it was a great experience for me. I can share one story that always stands out in my mind. It was a lesson that I taught early on in my student teaching at the tribal school. First grade, I get done with my lesson, and a kid in the very back row, I'll never forget it, back left corner of the classroom, raised his hand and said, "Mr. Chapin, I'm not supposed to talk to white people." And what I learned from that experience is that I believe that our perceptions of others are formed at home first, and that we need to let our experiences be our guide in how we determine whether or not we like somebody or not. Not basing it on the color of their skin, but to actually getting to know. And that was my message to this young first grader, is that not all people that are Caucasian are bad. Not all are good. I'm sure they've had some bad experiences growing up in Hayward, going to the store. That's one of the things he talked about, going to the store and people saying negative things because they're Native American. But I also told him that not all Native Americans are good either. There's some that make poor decisions, and so really it's not judging a book by its cover. I think that's the most important thing, in really getting to know people before you make that determination. And that's one of the big things I learned on working on the reservation.
Mr. Chapin was one of many teachers that we interviewed. As it turns out, most, if not all, did not grow up in a multicultural community. Like Mr. Chapin, Mr. Meyer grew up and went to school here in River Falls, and agrees that the diversity in those days were close to nothing.
Unless you call a bunch of white boys and white girls diverse, I would say no.
Mrs. Valor grew up in the Twin Cities. Nowadays, we see that area as being very multicultural and diverse.
Actually, my little neighborhood was pretty white, but we did have one of the first black families. The Species moved into our neighborhood, and I had a friend that was Jewish, and growing up as a Catholic, that was a no-no.
As it turns out, Mrs. Reed was the only teacher that said that they did grow up in a diverse community.
It was a pretty diverse community. The southeast of England is about an hour away from London, so there was a huge Pakistani community, and I remember taking school trips to visit the local Sikh temple, the local Hindu temple. We visited a mosque, we visited a synagogue, so it was a pretty diverse community.
In our school, slowly the district is becoming more diverse, meaning that it's up to us to learn each other. We did this through interviewing. So, was it difficult for your parents to get here?
Well, my mom, she was actually born in America, and she's like 100% American or something like that. And my dad, he was born in Mexico, but he was adopted from his. He got adopted to be able to come to USA from his uncle.
How did your parents get here?
Well, it's actually a long story, and I'll make it short. My dad joined the Peace Corps and went to Nepal and met my mom, and they came to America.
Okay.
Yep.
It's fascinating.
Jesus Christ, that's a big booger.
Do you think it was difficult for them to get here to the United States?
Yes, it was because they had to like work their butts off to like get here, and it was really hard because they weren't educated at all. So yeah,
What country were they from?
they were from Thailand. Well, basically Laos and Thailand because from Laos they moved to Thailand because.
Tom?
Pretty good.
Okay, so you're Native American, correct?
Yes.
What kind exactly?
Like what tribe? I'm sorry.
I am. I don't know what it's called again. Chippewa Mountain. Turn Mountain Cree.
That's,
Yeah.
so wait, where did they come from?
We mostly in Montana.
Montana. Do you
And-
speak the language?
Dapat ko kung dili chulo cha mo na na chicken na. Dapat ko kan dili sano cha.
Is that a yes?
Is that a yes?
No. I was just saying random stuff.
Okay.
Okay, you should probably delete that though, because if a Nepalese person saw that, they would probably.
Okay, thanks for coming, JJ. We're gonna ask you some questions, starting with, do you feel outnumbered in River Falls?
Yeah, because there's not a lot of black people in school or around the neighborhood.
Okay, so, what's your culture like now? Do you practice the same stuff that you would in Nepal?
Yeah, I practice soccer, practice guitar.
No, I mean like, like religion kind of stuff.
Like eating rice.
Not everyone can seem to live in a world of different people. Groups such as the KKK and neo-Nazis want white supremacy. These groups mainly meet in the United States. They both say the same thing. They claim that there is a war on whites. And when you look at their website, it almost scares you and you immediately think, is this true? The way they speak almost makes you think that they are unintelligent individuals who have no sense of the world and only take pride in themselves. Through the First Amendment, which gives the right of freedom of speech, these groups take to the street protesting. However, there is something that can stop this idea of a perfect race, and that is us. We are the next generation to grow up in this world. We can use our voice and our techniques such as this documentary to silence the nonsense that goes on in these clans. This documentary ends soon, meaning that it's your turn to speak up for yourself and what you think is right. And what is right is having a world where everyone can get along.